this kind of music is always a challenge for the Grey Cells, but somehow um, hugely detailed music is where I've pitched my tent.
Hi, I'm Uli John Roth, and you're watching the All Over the Place podcast where the fun sanity never ends.
Hello and welcome back to All Over the Place. I'm your host, Eric Porvoznik, feeling a little bit more dapper and feeling, going with a little bit more of a British look. You can kind of figure out where we're going on that one. But before we get to that, I have to welcome back into the stage here, Mr. Culver. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
As always, fantastical. Life is grand. Life is great. And also, speaking of great, we got Mr. Marty Zamora. There he is. Little time delay there. All the way from the family castle back in an undisclosed location, but we'll just say it's not in England. And on that note, we are welcoming back one of our favorite guests here on the show. The last time we had him on, we were talking about his album, The Circus and the Night Whale. And now we're going to be talking about that album for a little bit, but also we're the 50th anniversary of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, the iconic Genesis album. Welcome back to All Over the Place, Steve Hackett. Steve, thanks for joining us again.
Nice to be with you guys. All the best.
Steve.
All right. Well, you are Marty's in an undisclosed location, but wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Not far from you as you get set to kick off the tour for
That's right.
It's. Again, are we calling it the best? Well, the best of Genesis and solo Genesis next year, and we'll get to that. So this is the Lamb Stands Up. So what are we calling this tour that incorporates your solo material and Lamb Lies Down on Broadway?
Well, I can't remember the official title of it because I haven't got it in front of me. But I'm celebrating 9 tracks from The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which is roughly 50 years old now. But there's also solo stuff, and I get to celebrate stuff from Foxtrot, the whole of Supper's Ready, and many other things. It's a very good show. It's a great band, and it's great to be celebrating that particular album that's been in the news a lot recently. What with the Atmos remix and the box set that goes with that. So my live version at the Albert Hall, called The Lamb Stands Up at the Royal Albert Hall, that went to the top of the rock charts in the UK, and I'm very pleased it's done so well. And so I'll be taking that show around the States. I'm here for about a couple of months doing shows everywhere, and I'll be in Phoenix on November the 11th at the Celebrity Theatre.
Yes.
Looking forward to that. And many other places. We kick off in Ithaca on Saturday, and it's going to be really good. Really looking forward to it all.
I'm looking forward to it. I've already got my tickets for 11/11. Or as we used to say, or actually, I guess we still say it over there, Armistice Day or Veterans Day here. So yeah,
Oh, okay. Right.
finally getting to see you. And I found in my notes here, Genesis, the name of the tour, at least the last I checked, Genesis Greats and Lamb Highlights and Solo North American Tour.
Yeah, there'll be all of that, so that you'll get, the Genesis stuff, you get the solo stuff, you get, we try and address all ends of it for those who are, firmly affected by the past and love all of that. They get all of that, plus they get, the newer stuff as well. So, the sort of hot playing of the newer stuff.
Well, I mentioned Circus in the Night. Well, the last time you were here, I very critically acclaimed album. This was really my introduction to your solo work, and I worked backwards from there. I'm still really digging the album. It's just a great front to back, great narrative. And on that, the tour that you mentioned, the Royal Albert Hall album, culled from that. You played 3 tracks from that, and that was, of course, career span. You went from your first album, Voyage of the Acolyte, all the way through the 30th album, Circus and the Night Whale.
Yeah.
And so 3 songs from the new album makes sense. You're promoting it. So what do we had to look forward to from Circus in the Night Whale on this one? Is it going to be a complete career spanning?
Yeah, I think you get 3 tracks again from the Circus and the Night Whale, and various things from various solo eras. And then in the second half, we do 9 tracks of Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, then After that mini tour of the Lamb, after those 9 tracks, I did the whole of Supper's Ready from Foxtrot and a couple of other things from Genesis. Usually, let me see, something from Selling England by the Pound and something from Trick of the Tail. So we, we delve into a lot of different albums. But I guess the main focus is really on the Lamb in the second half. But I'll leave it for people to judge, which they feel more engaged by. So I think musos tend to say they like the first half very much. They like the level of energy that the band bring to it. And I think those who are nostalgic for how things were back in 1974 and 75, then the second half is very much for them. So I was saying to the press in the UK when I was sitting there with the other Genesis guys, I was saying, honor the past, celebrate the future. That's my approach.
That's my life credo. Don't look back, but never forget where you came from.
Yeah, why not?
And the last time you were here, we talked about the myriad of styles that were on the Circus and the Night Whale, and whether it was jazz or classical or rock and even heavy metal. So what was it like on that tour? Incorporating all those different styles, and is that going to continue on with the current tour?
Well, yes, it will. Yeah, I think a myriad of styles is a very, good way to put it because I'm influenced by so many different kinds of music from so many different eras. Um, I've been working on new material, funnily enough. I've been recording about 38 minutes or so of new material, and there's lots of orchestral stuff in there, lots of rock stuff, heavy metal, all of that. But I don't see why it should be separate. If there was such a thing as classic metal, it's a very hard thing. It's a collision of different schools of thought. So I love all of it. I love stuff that was baroque. I love stuff that's blues. I love stuff that's beyond all of that. The three B's. I love music in all its forms and from its different eras. So I'm not a one horse trick. I'm not after sort of coming up with the next rumors or anything like that. I think that music should be as broad as possible, like a time travel movie. That's how I see it. I want to be taken places, and I want to be surprised by music. That's my calling card these days.
I'm of the mindset I'm there to see the artist, and whether it's the obviously the breadth of the career makes me sick to see guys or gals when a new song comes on, that's their bathroom break. I'm like, you're missing what this guy who you love, obviously, or band you
Yeah.
love, is bringing to the stage. I've never appreciated that, and so I mean, how do you get those people to sit in their seats and say, hey, pay attention
Well,
to this too?
it's interesting that years and years ago, I would be doing something like in my parents' kitchen. I remember hearing something on the radio and wondering who the hell it was, and it turned out later to be the Beatles, and it was "I Am the Walrus." The Beatles seem to have the ability to reinvent themselves song by song at times in the most creative period. That sort of mid-60s period. Um, and I found the same effect. I mean, I loved blues and everything that Hendrix did, and London was a great place to grow up, particularly in the mid-60s, because you could go and see great guitarists any night of the week. You could go see Eric Clapton, Peter Green, Jeff Beck, Jimi Hendrix, and I did. At that time, it was a dream time for guitarists, but um, then things started to change and music became more inclusive. On the coattails of the Beatles, you had King Crimson, who were trying to fuse a jazz element into that, and I befriended many of those guys. Um, that was interesting hearing "In the Court of the Crimson King" for the first time and falling in love with the song immediately. I noticed people weren't going off to the bar at that point. I think that if a song can be stunning enough, if it's well crafted enough, you can treat it like an old friend the very first time you're hearing it when that powerful chorus comes round. in the case of King Crimson, I think that was well deserved. A lot of the stuff written, of course, by my late great friend Ian MacDonald, who came up with that particular song. But you just knew you were hearing a classic from the word go. So I hope that audiences will indulge me if I bring something that's not necessarily on the ticket to be able to say this is this may not be on the map, but um, somehow that's important too, that it's kept spontaneous, and it's a way of surprising people.
Well, folks, if you're going to the bathroom or you're going to get a drink during people that smoke, that's your loss.
Well,
It's
there you
all
go.
about Catholic shaming for me, Steve. That's how I get along in
That's
life.
it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't get too many people going out to the bathroom these days, but in order to address that, of course, we have a break in the middles, because
You got to got to have that
everyone's got
break.
to be, their needs have all got to be served. It's not just about entertainment. So heal the wounded. That's what I say. Yeah, we have to have a break in the middle. Then we become something else. Then we become the nearest thing to Genesis, circa 1974, 75, with an approach to it that is, um, I think, it's fresh, and makes you realize just how brilliant of those songs are. And they were crafted in order to be able to be performed live. I think that's the important thing. We were doing songs in those days that had a minimum of overdubs, unlike today, where if you're doing rock stuff, you're starting with a click track, and straight away it's a test tube baby. But in those days it was rather different. Everyone playing at the same time. When I do acoustic stuff, I'll start without a click track, and I'll hang everything on it. I'll hang an orchestra on it if necessary. But the main thing is, let's keep the surprises coming.
So your songwriting techniques have they changed over? Oh, they've clearly changed over the years. But I know, as music evolves, does your songwriting techniques have to kind of evolve with it, or do you have a set way you do it? I know Lamb Lies Down was done very differently.
Yeah.
But as the music evolves, does so your songwriting, the way you do it?
Yeah, I think that my songwriting has become more inclusive over time, because I'm aware that I'm not always doing rock. I will stray into other areas in order to make it interesting for myself. It's no secret that I was as influenced by the stuff that I heard Andres Segovia do as the stuff that I was hearing from Jimi Hendrix. Both geniuses, but one guy's setting fire to his guitar, and that's fine. Oh well, great. And the other guy is, spending 10 years to be able to play one piece that may have been written for violin or cello. It's a much more considered thing. You've got the spontaneous combustion of Hendrix, and you've got the very schooled, the best of classical music served up on a guitar to make it sound like a limitless instrument. Both equally valid. Um, I'm not sure what would have happened if you put them in the same room. I like to think that, um, although there may have been major disagreements with that, I've seen Yehudi Menuhin and John Lennon arguing on TV together, but both of them listened to what I did or what Genesis did, and they had nice things to say about it.
Wow, so that's a big endorsement there.
But to try and bridge, this huge gap between those who will say, "Oh, you've got to keep rock rootsy," and I'd say, "Why?" Because I'm interested in detail, and the idea of classical musicians have been able to embrace a lot of the stuff that Genesis did, because I think it's classical in spirit. I think Tony's mother was influential in that, even if she may not have been a professional a classical pianist, there's that influence on Tony. So yeah, classical music. We had a lot of conversations about what was great from classical music and what was classic about rock too.
And given that you chose the title "Lion Stands Up," obviously a reference to "Lion Lays Down," would you
Yes.
say there's some connective tissue, either thematic or musical, between your new material and that album, or is it more
Well,
of a Disney reference?
Funnily enough, you mentioned the Lamb Lies, Circus and the Night Whale. I mean, there is a similarity with my last studio album because it was conceptual. There was narrative. That was what bound the songs together and allowed me to do certain things. The idea of a lifetime in music, or even how music sounded before I was a musician, kicking off with sound bites from 1950s radio, and you realize how different entertainment was then. When you've got, something from Listen with Mother, from Pathé News, the way the BBC sounded, all of that sort of archive material. But that was why the world was going to be crying out for rock and roll very shortly. Maybe 4 years later, you've got the blues men coming up with incredible stuff. Muddy Waters, 1954, and you're hearing incredible harmonica playing. You're hearing it rip. You're hearing ambient drums. You're hearing the production values of the future, and there they were doing it right then, and that's why that stuff shows up on Levi ads and all the rest, and will always keep going. It will always be venerated by people such as Led Zeppelin and many other people. Paul Butterfield, I was a huge Paul Butterfield fan, and his incredible band with Mike Bloomfield, who basically was working with Bob Dylan early days when he was about to upset the apple cart by going electric. But then, it didn't destroy folk music. That's all valid. Maybe it's just that the forum wasn't ready for what was about to happen. But the folk festival becomes something else. The blues festival becomes the jazz festival, becomes the prog festival. Classical music, it opens its doors. The academy can't be closed forever to archaic thinking. The great keyboard players and composers of the past, the Handels and the Bachs and the Scarlattis, all born in the same year, 1685. These guys were great improvisers. So it wasn't all marks out of 10. It was like those guys knew how to have fun too.
You mentioned the narrative aspects of Lamb Lies Down and Circus in the Night Well. And
Yeah.
so as you pick the selection, as you make the selections for Lamb
Yeah.
Lies Down, Bride, this sprawling conceptual album, how do you figure out which songs you're going to keep and which songs, for time's sake, you're going to have to leave on the shelf?
Yeah. Well, for me, I try and do the songs that are most relevant to guitar. So apart from the opening track, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which you have to do because that's iconic and definitive, and I'm playing very much a supporting role in that. But it's very much keyboard driven and lyrically intensive and all the rest. But then by the time you get to Fly on a Windshield, I'm cut loose and I'm able to fly over it, and I love that piece of music. It haunts me in my dreams. I just absolutely love it. The sort of ramming speed aspect of that, the kind of military march past of it, the parade aspect of that's implied with that. So for me, choosing the tracks, I obviously have to not just choose the things where I took guitar solos, and some of those I may have left off, but to do things that I consider to be the greatest tunes, like Chamber of 32 Doors, I think is a brilliant tune. There's nothing like it. I don't think anyone has ever done anything like that. Lily White Lilith, a great little tune. The Lamia, like a pre-Raphaelite painting brought to life in music. I mean, it's beautiful stuff, wonderful poetic stuff. I mean, the Lamb was full of poetry as well as all this kind of urban angst as well. So it's a contradictory album very much. A band pulling in a lot of different directions at the same time. Not just two directions, but many, many more, myriad fractures.
Well, it only took me 49 years to listen to it. Again, after the last time you were here, I got it, and now I've got my vinyl over my left shoulder here. It's
Sure.
a great double album. I just love getting up and flipping sides. But for Lamb Stands Up, the reviews were great for that tour and the album, and in particular, people were talking about how tight and amazing the band sounded.
Yeah.
And so you've got most, if not all of them, coming back, but there's also a new person being added to the mix right now. So talk to us about the new guy and
Okay.
what you're looking forward to with him.
Absolutely. Nick DiVigilio is going to be on drums on this tour. I've worked with Nick before. I've recorded with him. I've toured with him. But it'll be very interesting to work with him. He's a great drummer, a great singer, and personality, very sweet guy. Very, very clever these days. I first saw him with Cirque du Soleil, extraordinary. And then we saw him with Big Big Train fairly recently. So he's a busy guy. Very, very clever. We go into rehearsals tomorrow with him. He's got a lot to remember because it's a 3-hour show. But you know, it's this kind of music is always a challenge for the Grey Cells, but somehow hugely detailed music is where I've pitched my tent. And so though I grew up learning to play blues guitar, the blues boom died on me like so many guitarists at the end of the 1960s. And as music became more inclusive, fortunately, my guilty pleasure of listening to Andres Segovia came to the fore, and I was able to mix these things. And with a band like Genesis, you had so many different styles of music embraced there. I mean, if you spoke to them individually, Pete would say to me, yes, I'm interested in Otis Redding, Nina Simone, and musique concrète. What's that? Okay. And then Mike Rutherford would be, oh yeah, like Joni Mitchell, Judy Collins, and Led Zeppelin. Tony would be, Vaughan Williams, perhaps Beethoven, Respighi, that was it, and Roy Orbison. So they were all a contradiction. Phil was more, big band, Mel Torme, but also the Supremes. So you get an idea of where this band was going to go in future, both collectively and individually. And you wouldn't have thought that perhaps these guys would be able to work together and form a team of writers. But that's what we were all vying for supremacy. But somehow, that was what it was all about. So I'm happy to celebrate that era all over again.
Well, it was great seeing you guys all come together for the 50th anniversary with the Atmos, and you're all there. Of course, with Phil's health being what it is, he wasn't able to join. But thank you so much for putting it together, and it's given these new-ish ears to it a reappreciation, not even a year later after discovering it. So, and Steve, I want to thank you again for joining us here on All Over the Place.
Thank you so much.
I want to remind our listeners and our watchers too. You can follow Steve on Facebook and Instagram. That's at Steve Hackett Official. X is just at Hackett Official, and subscribe to his YouTube channel as well, and that would be at Hackett Songs, or go to his website, which is www.hackettsongs.com. Looking forward to, we got 6 weeks. I get to see you for the first time. Looking forward to it. Hear the celebrity.
All the best, guys. All of you. Great talking.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And we'll be back real soon here on All Over the Place. Till then, take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends.